Hi everyone, welcome to the Influential Times March edition. As always, I am joined by Jack.
Hi everyone.
Yeah, it's good to be back talking about all things influencer marketing and social media. For my first story today, just a small update from TikTok. Well, possibly a small update, possibly a big update. TikTok are going to be extending the length of videos from 3 minutes to 10 minutes. Quite interesting actually, because they've gradually, I didn't even really notice this, I don't know if you did, Jack, but it started as 15 seconds, it then went to 60 seconds, and now then it was 3 minutes, and now they're going to 10 minutes. So it's gradually increased over the years. I think one of the kind of, I guess, user feedback things that they've used is they have had longer live streams within the feed already, so that's been a bit of a test to see what the engagement's been like around, slightly longer form content, and that's worked pretty well. They've said that hasn't affected to get engagement at all. So I suppose what they're trying to do really is to carve out a bit of a niche, really, by being somewhere between, you've obviously got Instagram and Snapchat stories that are still 10 seconds, very short form content, and then between that and YouTube, which is obviously longer form content. So they're probably going to end up being somewhere in the middle there, which I guess will be quite unique. I think, yeah, it's interesting with 10 minutes. It's still a reasonably short form piece of content, but it's probably going to open up the possibilities. It's probably going to open up the risks as well of the nature of the kind of content that can be created there. And yeah, some of the question marks in the industry around obviously how this will affect user behavior and engagement, but also it's probably going to open up some broader options around things like advertising. Obviously with YouTube now, I'm not sure if it's like when you watch an hour-long video, it's like every 5 or 10 minutes you get like a really quick advert. So whether that's going to be something that they're looking at doing, and they've got more scope with a 10-minute video. And yeah, some of the other question marks, whether it'll work. Obviously Vine tried to venture into the longer form content. It didn't quite work out for them. So, and also, currently concerns around spreading of misinformation and things like that as well. So yeah, some interesting opinions on this, Jack, out there.
Yeah, I thought one of the sort of dynamics that this might affect that you see in creator behavior on TikTok is much like people sort of thread on Twitter. I think it's not uncommon to sort of do a part one as a sort of, it's kind of users trying to game the dynamics of the app to sort of get people to visit their profile and view more of their videos and maybe gain followers. Because obviously it's, reasonably easy, I say easy, to kind of get your initial, like maybe a popular video. But I think users, sometimes creators, are trying to think, how do I, get a one viral video and then done. I kind of want people to follow me. I want people coming back and viewing my profile and viewing multiple pictures. So kind of threading things together and sort of telling a story maybe over multiple videos. There's no real excuse. The 3-minute video, I think, already largely put paid to that. You sort of think, you can't tell it in 3 minutes. Is it really that worth telling? With 10 minutes, you kind of think there's surely no excuse. And yeah, I guess as an all too frequent user, I suppose what I would say is, as we were discussing just before we came on air, it seems like sometimes the longer format actually hurts the quality of the content. So that I think they could end up in a sort of in a stodgy middle ground with lots of sort of slightly, because the thing about a short video is it can be spontaneous and quite throwaway. Whereas I think if you get into YouTube territory, I think most of the creators on there would say there's kind of planning and a bit more storyboarding and thought goes into your kind of visual storytelling and things like that. And the higher production value you might look for there suddenly becomes, users might want to watch that on desktop. I'm not convinced by this move, I would say personally. I think I understand why they're doing it. You keep the eyeballs longer, maybe that's a good thing. But I don't know, can you see yourself watching a 10-minute video on TikTok?
Yeah, it does feel quite long, doesn't it? Or it will definitely, I guess the nature of the content would have to change to suit the 10-minute format, but perhaps that's what they're wanting to do. Who knows? Let's see what happens with that. I think, Jack, you've got a couple of stories around. You've got a Reddit one, and there's also a LinkedIn update as well.
Yeah. So given we were just talking about kind of individual creators and how their behavior might be affected, the Reddit story is around a new feature that they're rolling out to. I think they're trying to highlight, because Reddit is sort of famous almost for having this very, kind of almost old school, quite simple interface, and for being home to all these kind of micro communities with their own culture and their own, they're all sharing their own stuff and their own sort of shorthand and language for communicating. So they're rolling out a kind of discovery tab, I think, to highlight one sort of picture and video a lot more, so that that's more of a visible element. So you can kind of see the best of, the most visually arresting pieces of content that are on the site. And I think maybe also to help people sort of find things outside of the maybe outside of the communities that they would self-consciously identify with. So you might you might join Reddit and sign up, I don't know, to a bunch of sports related or art related or baking related subreddits, and maybe sort of adding a discovery tab as a way of sort of going, oh, well, actually, you may have just signed up for advice about baking and to talk to other bakers, but maybe you also really like interior design. Maybe you're also really interested in talking about financial advice and that sort of thing. So on the face of it, makes sense. I don't know whether it sort of almost goes counter to Reddit's culture. I don't know. Are you a Redditor, Tom?
Not massively. No, I've never got into it, but yeah, I've got friends who are pretty into it. So probably be interesting to see what they think about the new feature.
Yeah, Reddit really feels like one of those, as the saying goes, the ones who know.
Yeah, for sure.
People who are into it are really into it and are usually quite big evangelists for it. And yeah, lots of user bases are kind of hostile to change. So yeah, they might see it as kind of, it's being compared to Instagram or Pinterest a little. So I can kind of see why people might get a bit funny about this one. So yeah, our second one is an acquisition story. I've been talking loads in recent months about Spotify acquisitions in the podcast space. This one is an acquisition by LinkedIn of an Israeli web analytics company called Aribi. I think I'm pronouncing it like Liverpool striker Divock Origi, but that might not be right. It's spelt like that, I think, with a B, but my pronunciation could be off there. It's a fairly sizable acquisition. It's kind of beefing out LinkedIn's suite of tools for marketers, really. By the look of it, I spent some time kind of poking around their website. It's just kind of more attribution tools that can be integrated into LinkedIn. So that's been a very successful source of cash for LinkedIn. Having all these tools available for marketers, I think the more they can extend their reach and sort of almost the visibility that a marketer has on LinkedIn, off LinkedIn, and onto sort of subsequent landing pages and things like that, the better off they'll be. Aribi talks about sort of preserving the privacy of users and also trying to really make it as easy as possible for small businesses to access analytics. So an interesting one overall, although sort of not in another sense not that interesting, kind of just obvious and makes sense as a step. Really, the article, if you guys get the newsletter, you'll see the TechCrunch article about this suggests it's kind of tanks on Google's lawn. It's a direct challenge to Google Analytics in some ways, and sort of Microsoft building that out within their, they've acquired LinkedIn, this large social platform for business, and now they're sort of starting to really broaden out that offering. But, yeah. So we were going to finish up with your second story, Tom, on how kind of brands are thinking about DE&I in the influencer marketing space.
Yeah, absolutely. Diversity, equity, inclusion, obviously a really, really important topic, and one that at Analytica as well, we're very much involved in and sort of pushing as much as we can. Yeah, just an article that I noticed that Ad Age ran, talking about sort of where the industry's got to, and some of the research that's been done recently. I think the main point they made, that the industry has come a long way over the past couple of years, and it's actually an agency called Influential. They're more kind of US based. They have clients like Pepsi and NFL and some big companies. They actually did a diversity audit, which was quite interesting, and they found that 90% of the campaigns they ran last year included at least one diverse creator, and 50% of their campaigns actually had a majority of diverse creators. So really, really good stats there from some of the stuff they've been doing with large brands. So I think, yeah, definitely come a long way. I think there's definitely still areas that could be improved on. I think there's still issues around pay equity, for example. But I think the general feeling is that influence marketing is moving quicker than some of the other areas of marketing. When it comes to some of these diversity and inclusion pledges that have been made. And obviously, we've done a lot on this. We did a big report actually last year, which looked at diversity, equity and inclusion. We actually focused it on the tech sector, because obviously that's where most of our clients sit. We tried to look at which of the brands were sort of most prevalent in the conversation, were driving the most kind of awareness and perception around the topic. So some really interesting insights there. And if anyone wants a copy, then obviously get in touch with us. And also, we're going to be doing a lot around women in tech in March as well, to coincide with International Women's Day. So we've got some really exciting content coming out around that. But yeah, Jack, I suppose it's good to see some of those stats, and that the diversity inclusion has come a long way in the last couple of years.
Yeah, I think it's the bit that's really noticeable, which you kind of hit the nail on the head there, is you can see there's loads of progress in diversity, because those are the stats that brands feel kind of not just willing but actually proud to share, because it's maybe it's less of an uncomfortable conversation than the sort of equity when it gets into pay. And it's less thorny. It's probably easier to do something about right away, as you can just if you're putting together a panel, you're putting together a campaign, you can easily tell whether you have a diverse. It's very easily auditable, and it's very noticeable when it's not. So I think lots of people are in the sort of panel speaking business will always will notice when there's an all male panel, a manel, if you will. I think, yeah, those are obviously kind of almost not easy is maybe the wrong term, but like it feels very addressable right away and you can sort of make the effort. I think noticeable though that on the actual sort of pay transparency, I think there's a little bit of a that's where we get into sort of maybe marketing departments wanting to keep their cards close to their chest, or feeling they need to for kind of competitive reasons. It's almost like, I don't want to say what I'm paying my creators in case suddenly I might find myself under pressure to up that. What if there's public backlash? What if I'm called out? Or what if actually it turns out maybe I'm overpaying or something like that. So I don't know quite what the sort of the reasoning is, but I definitely agree. We as an organization want to try and think about what our role is, and sort of bringing both parties together, the brands and the influencer, and trying to make the conversations as transparent as possible. I think that's where it begins. But yeah, absolutely, as Tom said, check out the report, check out a lot of the content we'll have coming out about that, and I'd really recommend reading the article on Ad Age. It's US focused, but some really interesting stats in there about kind of tangible steps that brands are clearly taking, and kind of positive and encouraging signs that people are really making the effort and kind of investing time into diversifying the kind of group of influencers that they work with.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. Well, look out for the newsletter. Obviously, there'll be the stories we've talked about today, plus a bonus story. And yeah, we will look forward to seeing you next time.